a whisper of wings over a marsh at dusk. A ripple of silver under the moon. Great skeins of wild geese strung across the sunrise. These are the things which make wildfowl especially romantic. For thousands of years, they've been the quarry of man. And yet, you know, until quite recently, very little was known about them. About their way of life, about their migrations, their food, their ailments, their behavior, their relationships one to another. And then, in many parts of the world, there were fears for their very survival. Their survival against the tremendous human pressures which are on them. Not only on the birds themselves, but on the wild country, the rather special wild country they need to live their lives in. And so that was why, back in 1946, we started up the Wildfowl Trust here at Slimbridge. We chose this part of the Severn Estuary in Gloucestershire mainly because it's the traditional home of a great flock of wintering wild geese, which have been coming here since immemorial times from their breeding grounds in Siberia. Then, too, near the estuary was a 100-year-old duck decoy, a device for catching wild ducks for market, which we plan to use for ringing them so as to study their migrations and their length of life. And so we began to accumulate what has finally become the largest collection of living wildfowl in the world. Altogether, there are 147 described species of ducks, geese, and swans. And we've got 122 of them here. It's a lot of different kinds from a lot of different places. Little Ross's geese from western North America. Red-breasted geese from Russia. Emperor geese from Alaska. Strange plumages that stir the imagination into wondering why. Why should the European widgeon have a chestnut head and a yellow crown? Why should both sexes of the fulvous tree duck be the same? Why should the red-crested pochard's red hair stand on end? Look at the delicate pattern of this ringed teal from Paraguay. And how was this exquisite plumage of the African pygmy goose evolved on this tiny bird, the smallest of all the ducks? And what about these two Hawaiian geese? How was their neck pattern evolved? Some of the birds are confined by being pinioned so that they can't fly away. Others, once they're accustomed to the place, are free to come and go as they choose. And yet others are visitors from faraway breeding grounds who come to the ponds at Slimbridge because there's food and protection, and they learn to become quite used to people. In the springtime, the birds that haven't migrated away make simple nests and lay their eggs. For the most part, they aren't very good mothers in captivity, and they lose too many of their young. So to avoid this, we usually take the eggs away as they're laid. And so that they keep on laying, the egg that's taken away is replaced with a dummy. The date is written on the real egg, and later, when the clutch is complete, it's incubated either in an incubator or under a foster parent, a hen or a bantam. This leaves the mother duck free to lay a second clutch, sometimes even a third. A large egg to replace the real egg of the black-necked swan from South America. They sometimes lose their eggs during the incubation period by letting them roll out of the nest into the water. But once the young hatch, they're excellent parents. And so in this case, the eggs are taken for safekeeping, incubated artificially, and later given back to the parents just before they hatch. Meanwhile, there's great activity in the gallery of nest boxes. Perhaps 150 broody hens sitting on the duck and goose eggs at the height of the season. Tommy Johnston, the curator, listens for the first sounds of tapping. Tests for temperature. Yes, it seems to be a good egg. This Rhode Island red has just hatched out a brood of grey-lag goslings. Day-old shell ducklings. Once they're hatched out and they're ready to go out into the rearing pens, to be launched, as we call it. The white bantam cross, half silky, doesn't seem too surprised when her brood of ducklings takes to the water. They're American wood ducks, Carolinas. The Cape Barren or Seriopsis geese have a pen to themselves because they're rather quarrelsome. And being undisturbed, they raise their own young quite successfully.